Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading property experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, and Ben Kingsley, chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the 2014 and 2015 Property Investment Advisors of the Year.
All right, folks, you're on the Property Couch, where each week Ben and I bring you the insider's guide to property finance and money management. Hello, mate.
Mate, I'm getting a little bit upset.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the summer
too much
series
sun?
is coming to an end.
I know. How good has it been?
Oh,
Some
so
ripping
good.
guests.
So good. Well, it doesn't stop today, though, does it?
We have certainly not tailed off at the end. We have sort of just elevated just a little bit
just
higher.
Finish off with a
just
bang.
put a little bit of pressure on our very special guest.
That's how big we're going to finish off.
I know.
Party time.
We have Jordan Bill, who's joined us in the studio, Ben. How exciting is that for our summer series? Jordan Bill is the Regional Queensland State Advisory Council for Queensland picker.
Queensland twice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Mate, I was just reading the sheet that you prepared for me. So welcome to the podcast, Jordan.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Hey, thanks for coming on. We put the shout out to, well, Ben sort of finishes heckling me over there, but we put the shout out to listeners, and you put your hand up because you wanted to share your story. So a couple of things. One, thanks for doing that.
Yes.
And two, tell us a bit about your story. What does the investing journey look like for you, and as far back as you want to go?
I guess, like I said to you off air before, I listened to the way you guys talked in your podcast around your stories, and I was thinking about something you guys said. Where did money start for you guys? And for me, it was more around. I got dragged in the car with Dad. I got a twin brother. I got dragged into the car with Dad every weekend. Dad's a builder, has been for a million years. And we would go and move bricks and do all these really ordinary jobs, straighten nails and all the things that young kids... Yeah, it was very akin to that. You stop at the TAB on the way past, and at the end of it...
bet on for me, son.
Sit here in the car, things you're not allowed to do anymore with kids, and at the end of it, you might get a $5 or $10 note, or on the way home, you might get go and get yourself $3 worth of lollies at the store or something like that, and it sort of just resonated with me that, well, if I put in a little bit of effort here, I might get a little bit of something out of this. So I thought this is good. And then I don't really have any more thoughts of money again, probably until sort of 15, 16. I was very, very, very lucky. Mum and Dad, incredibly hard workers. So they owned a restaurant at the time, and Dad was a builder during the day. Mum was at the cafe or restaurant during the day, and then Dad would come and do the night shift.
Wow.
So Dad...
That's heavy going, just a restaurant on its own, let alone the second job.
I don't know how he did. I've got two young kids now, and looking back, I don't know how he did it, to be honest with you.
You know how he did it? He took you to the site, you had to load bricks and you had to straighten nails. Now you thought you were adding value, he's like, I just need him something to do, so I can go and put the frame up.
I'm sure if we got Dad here, the bricks would have been moved to the wrong place and all the rest of it. But yeah, so I just saw these two people working incredibly, incredibly hard. I don't know, I could never talk about their money management or their skills because we're one of those families that don't talk about it largely, but I just had this ethos that I just saw, it was taught to me early, if you worked really hard, you got places. So when I started year 8, I was at a private school on the Gold Coast with my twin brother, and my sister was at the private school, the sister school. So they were putting, I went to TSS, and my sister went to St Hilda's. So I had 3 in private school, working their guts out, and I was surrounded by all these, what I would have thought as really wealthy people. There was just money everywhere. And it didn't matter whether it was regional or city money, there was just money everywhere. And I sort of started to think, okay, there's a bit to this money thing. You know, you can have what you want, and flash boat or a nice car, it still didn't mean a whole lot. And then my now best mate, who I met when I went to school there, is a bush
Potentially
boy.
one of the best views for a school ever on the banks of a river,
It's
right?
very nice to play football there. Very, very nice. So I met him in year 8, and I had the best childhood. So he came out every weekend on leave with us, did the Gold Coast thing. Every school holidays we went home out west and worked for his dad. And, you know, at the time we thought, oh, this is child labour again. We're doing that 60-hour week thing again. But little did I know we're putting cattle in the wrong paddocks and really not value adding anything at all. I know that now. But again, you get put back on the bus for your 7-hour trip back to the Gold Coast, and his father would give you sort of a $50 note, and you'd think, hang on, there's a bit to this again. There's a common theme here. So it just sort of started that ball rolling. And Dad had always, I don't ever remember living in a house for very long at all. Dad always renovated them. So we did a small stint down here. Dad renovated in Ascot Vale, Moonee Ponds, those sort of areas.
Great neighbourhoods then.
Yeah.
Fantastic neighbourhoods.
Yep.
I live in
Oh, right. Okay.
The residents are a bit on the nose, but the houses are good.
So that was many moons. That was around, well, we moved back to Queensland in 1995.
Yep.
So we just always renovated. So I just saw this thing with property that if you renovate houses, you make money. It's pretty simple. And I got to the age where it's time to finish school. University wasn't an option for me. I hated school.
Yeah.
So I went and did my trade with Dad.
Yep.
Did 3 years there and then went west. I went out to Mitchell.
So carpentry or
Carpentry.
sparky?
Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't really have a choice on the other one. I was going down Dad's route whether I liked it or not. So
frame up, son, frame up. There we go. Beautiful.
Do as I do, not as I say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. We did that, and then I had a gut full of carpentry. 3 years, a young fella, and very much similar. I think it was your father that said all his mates were labourers.
Yeah.
All my mates were down at uni, living the dream, and they were all going to this place called Sydney, and there was pubs and clubs, and I just thought, I can't afford any of this. I got a busted broken ute, and I just thought, nah, this isn't me. So I went west. So that was really cool. But it was 57,000 acres, and there was me and one other bloke who was about 4 years older than me, and I thought pretty quickly, I really loved the work, and it was a great lifestyle, but there was just no money in it. And I very quickly realised something's got to change. So, long story short, came home and met my now wife.
And home's Toowoomba?
At that stage, it was the Gold Coast, back to the Gold Coast. Yeah. Met my now wife.
Which part of the Gold Coast were you living?
At that stage, Bigger Waters. Yeah, my wife's mother still owns her property just up behind Movie World in the hinterland there.
Coomera. Yep.
Yeah. I needed a place to put a horse and met Belinda's mother, and then met Belinda, and the rest of that story is history. But so we did that, and then it wasn't long after we decided to buy a place of our own, and we settled on a place called Postman's Ridge, which is out near, just at the base of Toowoomba Range.
Yep.
So we bought ourselves 13 acres there, and Belinda actually moved out. We had a shed. We built a 6x6 shed. Was not insulated. I had a pot-belly stove, and Belinda moved out, and she said, it's so cold out here. I was like, you're all right, just toughen up. And I got out there and thought, crikey, what have I got myself into? It was so cold. It was so cold. So anyway, we did that for a little while, and this money thing came up because all of a sudden I didn't have Dad there to back me into jobs, and I didn't really have a job, and I thought, what am I going to do here? So I'd resign myself to the fact that I was going to do anything. I'd go and pack shelves if I had to. Lucky it didn't come to that. I went over to the local meatworks, worked there, pushing cattle, did whatever I had to do, got a job with a local shed builder, built sheds until I could build my own business, and I started working as a carpenter.
Yeah.
Got the house built. That is a whole nother podcast in that. That was, as a builder, that was the worst thing I've ever been through in my life, building that house.
But surely the experience with your dad growing up on the worksite would have helped you?
Believe it or not, it didn't.
No?
It didn't. This guy just, oh mate, he pulled the wool. It got handed to me. So I really got rolled in that one, but that's okay. So I built this house, and it was beautiful. It was massive. It was a big house. And I was working away at that stage. We decided to get married, and so I said to Belinda, I'll go away to the mines, see if I can earn the big bucks to pay for the wedding, which I did. I did exactly 12 months. I went back for 1 week after our honeymoon, and that was it. And I said to Belinda, there's probably 80, 100 grand in this house if we sell it. Back to that blueprint of what Dad had always done.
Yeah.
So I convinced her, and we put it on the market, and sure enough, we got our 80 to 100 grand, and you plus and minus the entry and the exit, and we got about 15 grand. So, but we don't talk about that.
That's just the gross profit. Don't worry about the cost.
You did really well on TV, wouldn't you? Just talks about the top line number.
I bought it for this, and I got 100,000 more for it.
Yeah.
But I
What about after tax?
Numbers can tell different stories. They tell the story you want them to. So we then went, and we thought, well, at that stage I'd got a job with the University of Queensland. I we'll backtrack. We finished the house, the honeymoon, we decided to put it on the market, and the big old floods came through Toowoomba. And that was a scary day. That was tough. So we thought, oh no, we've lost all the value in our property. And one of my groomsmen owned the place next door, and he sold straight away, and he didn't do quite as well. And we were lucky. We put it on the market about 3 or 4 months later, and a woman fell in love with it, just had to have it. And it was on the market 6 days, and it sold, and we got a really good price for it. So I decided carpentry was enough. All the Goldie guys came out, and the Sunshine Coast builders, and it just swamped the market. There was no work. So I was lucky enough to get a job at the University of Queensland. And so we thought, well, let's move a little bit further east. So we went down there and bought 5 acres. Horrible house.
There's a theme going on here.
Belinda.
Yeah, mate, you certainly
read The Fortunate Life.
I actually have. It's one of my favourite.
What is it?
Fortunate Life.
That's actually my father's family line.
Australian book.
Yeah. Albert Facey.
Yeah. That's a cracking book.
It is a cracking book.
Yeah. So when we settled, I rocked up. It settled at 2:30 in the afternoon. I was there at 3:30, and Belinda rocked up about 4, and she'd never seen the property. And
she got back in the car. She turned around. She said,
after I went to that place without a heater, you promised me.
And so we
You're still together?
She's still
funnily enough, we are. I don't know why. So we opened up the back door, and the previous owner had been keeping possums and cats in the house, so there was just this overwhelming odour wafted out of this house. So anyway, we decided there's a reno that needs to happen here. So in between that, we decided to, maybe Belinda was already pregnant, but there was a baby being made or something, but it was happening, and I was trying to renovate over night time, and so we did it. I was putting Bearers and Joyce down on the deck the night Belinda went into labour. So we jumped in the car and shot up to Toowoomba, and we had our baby daughter. Yeah. And then kept renovating that, and then our baby.
How did that go when your wife's trying to say, keep the noise down, keep the noise down?
It was a funny thing, because our child just hated sleep. Right. She was one of those kids, just hated sleep. So I just had all the time in the world to renovate. It didn't matter. So I went through, we did walls, ceilings, kitchens, the whole lot. It didn't look like the original house. And then our son was born in our house. And then we sort of thought, well, this fascination with money came back up again. And I always had this theory that who dies with the most money wins. Never, ever, hating school, never, ever had an education of any sort around money. Just warped views on money. And the university, I started listening to podcasts, many of them actually, and just sort of thought, hang on, there's different ways of doing this. And the more I got into it, the more I started to learn. And then I came across an advisor and met with, I rang him, and I had about a 20-minute conversation with him. And I said, look, you're not going to believe this, but my wife's not going to do this. He said, it's all right, we can get her on board. Just tell her to call me, it'll be okay. So I went back and I spoke to Belinda and I said, look, can we give this a go? Yeah. And the notion of blowing, it was about $4,000 or $5,000 I think it cost us. And we sat there and deliberated on this $4,000 or $5,000 for weeks and weeks and weeks. And Belinda, her backstory, migrant from South Africa, one of 5. They came over with nothing. Her mother, you want to have a case study on saving, this is it. She is next level. Paid the house off in 7 years with the 5 kids. Just a phenomenal human being. I also had that case study in my background where I thought, I don't ever want to be like that. That's not me. I can't do that because I got money, I spend it. I love spending money. There's no doubts for that. Belinda comes from this family where you cut the toothpaste carton open and you scrape it out because you don't waste anything with 5 kids. So this $5,000 was a big lump sum of money for these people we don't know, and for something that we don't know was going to enhance our life. And we ended up saying, I said to her, look, can we meet with this guy and we'll talk this over and see what happens. So we did, and we both liked him. So we went ahead and we did it, and we got a structure. And before I could ever get a plan done, I went ahead and sold our property.
So give us a timeline here. What year are we talking?
Mate, that was
roughly
probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I knew I was going to get this plan done, and I basically wanted to get everything naughty done before this plan came in, because I had this idea that he was going to slap these shackles on me. I wasn't going to be able to spend anything. So I was like, okay, I'm going to sell this house, I'm going to pocket this cash, and we'll have cash that he doesn't know about, and then we'll be right. So
not even telling him about it all. Yeah.
Well, I had a plan to tell him, but he wasn't allowed to touch it. So
I've had people withhold $100,000 on me.
Really?
Until eventually they go, I'm really trusting what you're telling me now.
Yeah.
But so there's another $100,000 just in case this thing doesn't work. And I'm like, don't ever do that to me again. Right? If we're going to have
everything.
If we're going to have an honest conversation,
it's like your solicitor. We've got no secrets.
No
secrets.
secrets.
Work in your best interest.
I'm in your camp, right?
Yeah.
Don't think that I'm going to try and
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we did that. We put the place on the market, and it sold quickly again for good money. We made probably another 80, 100 grand and pocketed 15 again, so that was great. But in between that, right before I met Joel, I just had to have an investment property. It was just one of those things. I just needed an investment property. And I got to the point where I didn't care what it was. I was just going to buy something. So I did exactly what you guys say not to do. So I just went and bought the cookie cutter. And it's great. Like, it's this black rock. It just sits there, it does nothing. It just is part of what we've got. So I bought one of four. There's 4 little units in a row, and it's on the downside of the road, and it backs onto sort of like this drainage pit, and it's just anyway, it is what it is.
How'd they get that into the brochure?
I didn't even get a glossy brochure with mine. I actually went and actively sought it and got it. So no, that was good. So I bought that, and then we went back to Joel and we said, look, this is now what we've got. We've got this little bit of cash. Oh, sorry, that's where I was going with that. When I sold the house, the bank quickly said, well, hang on, you've got cash there, you're going to pay 60K off that. So now I had no cash and this property that just sort of doesn't do anything. So I said to Belinda, right, we've got to go back to Joel and make this happen. We've got to get ourselves on the right track. So we had a pretty good sit down with Joel and really nutted out where we wanted to go. And that was, for Belinda, that was easy. Speaking of Joel's like speaking to a mother. You must do this and you must do that. And if you want to get where you're going, you're going to do this. And for me, I'm just like, who are you? Like, what is, you're telling me I can't do this? So we had some great conversations, Belinda, Joel and I. And then I started basically changing the plan on Joel pretty quickly.
No.
Yeah.
Surely not.
Yeah, no, I did that a few times.
I find that hard to believe.
Joel, stop taking my calls. No. But no, my whole blueprint. So the best book in the world for me is Secret to a Millionaire Mind. Mm-hmm. And it goes into blueprinting. And until you recognise your blueprint, I reckon you've got nothing. This whole philosophy of renovating houses, and when you make money, you take your wife to Melbourne for a real great weekend and you spend money and you buy nice cars and all this sort of stuff. And Joel's saying, no, that can't work. That's got to stop. So we did, for the first time in our life, we did the bit at the start where you assess what income you have, what expenses you have and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to call it a budget because I hate that word, but we did that and it blew my mind. It's something I'd never done before and I just thought, wow, there's a lot of surplus there that's sort of...
Where's it going?
What's happening here? So that was a real eye-opener. Belinda's going, I could have told you this, we didn't expect $5 grand. And I'm like, humour me here. I'm a human. So yeah, we did that. And then I thought, well, this is good, but Joel's still telling me a lot of what I don't want to hear because this is going to be tough. Like, this is going to ruin my life. If I can only have... At that stage, I think we decided that it was our discretion was going to be $500 a week. Not being capital city, obviously our expenses are a lot less. We could do that. And I just had this moment where I thought, my life's over. We're never going to be able to have takeaway or anything. Like, this is not good. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done.
It was a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't like this. But...
she's going, yeah, it's a great idea that you brought me here.
Yeah, eyes are just bright as. But anyway, then Joel produced a little thing called the plan. We prefer the plan. And it just blew my mind. The level of detail in this thing was just phenomenal. So Dad always had this philosophy. Dad always told me, and I can remember when I very first had kids, he said, don't worry about money. When you need it, you'll find it. Because I said, I think we'd like another kid, but how do you ever afford to school them? Don't worry about that. You'll find the money when the time comes. You just make it work. And I'd always had second jobs. So even now, as a banker, I still do the odd carpentry job. Damn it, DNA. It's a blueprint.
Yeah, you're a worker.
So I just Joel had just shown me this way where you didn't just find the money. At year 1 and 2 and 5 and 7 and on and on and on, 40 years out, all of a sudden I got a retirement date. I know exactly when I'm going to retire. And I just thought, why doesn't everyone know about this? This is phenomenal. It was my financial light bulb moment. Yeah. And I just thought, I am 100% on board.
What was the transformation at that point when you saw that? What was going on for you? What did that give you?
Nothing instantly until that best mate of mine who lives out west. I started talking to him, and the more I started to explain what it was that I had in my hot little hands, the more I just thought, this is freedom. Mm-hmm. This is financial freedom. If you don't have one of these, how are you living your life? What are you doing? How does this work for you? Mm. So I'd always, and up until that point, I'd always controlled our finance. Not controlled. We'd always had separate accounts, really, but I'd always paid all the bills and all that sort of things. And Belinda took over. And I'd always, when I paid them, it was always like, oh, there's that bill, and you'd look at the mail and you'd think, oh, I just won't open it for a little bit, and that sort of stuff. And now you just like, oh, there's another bill. I know that it's in the offset. I know that it's been accounted for, it's there. Mm-hmm. We're going to a private school. I really want to send the kids to private school if it suits their mind, the way they work. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of our big things. So Joel built that in for us. We know that we can afford it. If I don't go there, well, you just save a little bit extra money. It's no big deal. I always got to have a new car. It changed every 3 years. Mm-hmm. So that really hurt when Joel said, I'm going to keep a car for 7 years. So it's going to be a bomb. This can't work. I can't be seen in that thing. But that's been another really big grounding, I guess. And I don't know. I've lost interest in materialistic things. They really just don't faze me. I'm a red-blooded male Aussie. I want a really nice car, don't get me wrong. But it means nothing until I retire, sort of thing. I've got this now focus. Our discretion was 500, and I'll never forget, Belinda and I walked out of a meeting with Joel, and Belinda's like, we're going to do better than that. So we actually, our discretionary sits around that 300 to 350 a week.
Wow.
With 2 kids?
With 2 kids.
There you go.
We both work full time. They're both in daycare, so all their daycare bills come out of that and everything.
Yep.
Belinda told me just before I came down here, we're saving about $1,300 a month at the moment, and I'm on well under 100, and so is Belinda, put it that way.
Any tricks? Are we building our food from scratch?
Yes.
Using flour and all the basics?
Are you the grass eater?
Can't you tell?
I reckon Ben looks pretty good. I'm going to say.
Mate, that was a silver fossil over there.
You set that up beautifully, didn't you?
Yeah, you really did. So my wife being South African, they made everything. They always had bees and breads and everything. So Belinda's very much around the grass eating scene. I try and loves it.
Eating healthy.
Eating healthy.
Yeah.
I'm well and truly a carnivore, let me just say, but I don't eat as many pie and chips as old mate does.
When you're in the bush, you buy half a cow.
You buy half. Yeah, you bet. I'd be in heaven in the country.
But to be honest, since we went to Money S.M.A.R.T.S, we don't buy half a cow anymore.
Okay.
Chicken's cheap.
Yep.
It's a great source of protein. Eat it. It's that simple. You can make a nice meal out of it. If we want to be extravagant and go and buy some steak, we'll do that. But we don't need to be eating. Yeah. And we certainly don't eat ribeye fillet.
Well, quite often people do things in the moment because they don't have a vision, right, of where they're going. So they'll make a decision to feel, Avril Lavigne did that, what's that song, chasing every temporary high, right? So people have these moments of temporary highs that don't last very long, and then at the end of the month they go, wow, there was all these temporary highs that weren't very fulfilling, and it cost me a bit of money, and I actually didn't reach what I was achieving for, because I don't actually have a vision for where I'm going, whereas you've got a vision of where you're going, so then everything else falls into line.
I can say that's 100% me. That was 100% me. Like I said, you'd finish a carpentry job, you'd have a little bit of cash in your pocket straight away. It's just about fulfilling that feel-good bone, I guess, and that's not us at all anymore. So, and it really worried me. I thought, well, I can't even go and get a coffee every day, or we'll never be able to have takeaway again. And it's not the case. We've got this plan. We know exactly what it costs us. It's given us so much direction, so much clarity. I still get a coffee. Well, you go into a shout with all the people in the office. So I have my shout, they have their shout. I get a coffee nearly every single day. We have takeaway once a week. Other than that, we pack our lunch. You know, the kids still get takeaway every now and we get the odd ice cream or something like that, but they don't need it. They're growing. They need good food. So I mean,
it's called delayed gratification. At some point in the future, you'll be the benefit of it. Hey, give us some. Like your story's captivating, right? So I'm just being drawn in, which is great. But what are some of the things that the listeners can learn from your story? What are some of the keys? You've obviously talked about mindset. You knew your blueprint. Delayed gratification. What would you say to someone who's currently can sit there and resonate with you? They didn't have a sense about money. They didn't want to sacrifice. What are some of the learnings that you've had along the way that would help someone who can relate to you?
Firstly, I'd say you're kicking goals by listening to this podcast, because if you don't have education, you've got nothing. And I'm the first to say I used to can education. Education's for losers. It's not. Get an education. Learn as much as you can about money management. If you've got your money management sorted, well, then you can go any direction you like. And it doesn't have to, this podcast property centric, it doesn't have to be. It can be shares, it can be anything. Get yourself sorted and get an advisor. Get a money management advisor. If you can't do it yourself, get someone who can help you. Get subject matter experts around you. Get that sorted. Then there's just this clarity. Then you can sit down with your partner or yourself or whatever and say, okay, now I know what I've got coming in. I know what I've got going out. I know what I've got left over.
It's so simple, isn't it? Like if you think about it, even though, you know, we talk about Roger Federer having coaches, but just what about the average tennis player who wants to play competition? Did they never get coached? Of course they got coached. The basketballer, the kids who are just starting out, there's a coach. There's someone who's organising the team, training the skills, and then till a point where you get to a competency level where you move on. And if you want to get better and better and better and better, you just keep growing, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's fascinating, isn't it, in terms of we don't teach it at school. You know, and obviously we had Paul Clitheroe on our 200 show. He gave some great life lessons. He's the same. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's not your fault. But what is potentially your fault is if you identify a weakness or a lack of skill and you don't do anything about it if it's going to be important for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then you learn. You take that knowledge. So that $5,000 investment or whatever it was, it's going to transform, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it can be a $29.95 investment because, you know, it sounds like a blatant plug of our book, which probably is slightly thinly, but for $29.95 or cheaper on the website, however, you can actually get a system that allows you to get the clarity and the peace of mind that you're talking about, so that you actually can then build a vision for where you want to go.
And I tried budgets, I tried all that sort of rubbish, and look, if it works for you, you
said, quote, you hate budgets.
Yeah, I hate them because I've always failed at them.
Okay.
I think this idea of, because the JAR system works, so it's essentially budgeting. I think if you don't have, budgets alone don't work. And if you've got a structure and you've got a why and you've got a golden road path in front of you, you can see it. You can make it happen. If you just say, okay, I'm going to put $100 aside every week and I'm not going to have my takeaway anymore, you'll fail, I guarantee it. You just can't do it. You never get... We're humans. We like a bit of self-gratification sometimes too. So you've got to have the nice things. But I think if you've got that direction and that coach, you know, whenever I have one of my harebrained ideas, I want to go and build a new house or something, I ring Joel. They put you back on the path very quickly, I'm here to tell you.
The same sort of thing. You build a house with foundations, put a frame, then a roof on, then you fill it out, right?
Yep.
I don't know anyone who builds roofs and then tries to put them up on stilts.
Yep.
Not a good way of doing it, is it?
No.
Oh, well, that's a good analogy, mate.
Money management is so simple. It's just organising a system.
Yep.
So don't run a budget, because if you run line items and you just track each line item, that doesn't change behaviour. But if you have a rules-based system, then the behaviour changes because, there's a rule around that.
Yeah.
So that's my 7-day float. So I can't spend that money.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's a rule that you set. It's not someone imposing rules on you. You've set the rules. Once you've set them up, you're following your rules.
Correct. And if you've got any type of debt, right, you've got to start to have a mindset shift that, okay, I've got $30,000 in the bank, but I've got a $200,000 mortgage. So if you start thinking that every dollar that's in that living and lifestyle account that is your weekly 7-day float, that's not my money. So if I can save more of it, I can pay down that debt. Because you think, 30 grand in the bank, I'm cashed up. That's my money. But so you've got a massive big debt over here too. So if you start taking the attitude towards that 7-day float in the same way, all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm playing with someone else's money here. Until such day as I don't have any debt, and then ultimately it's my money.
Well, Joel said to us straight away, the plan said 2021, I think we can have your principal place. And we didn't like that idea. We just thought that wasn't good. So we went as hard as we could. I had a ride-on mower. I didn't need it. I sold it. I went and did my carpentry jobs. We sold everything we didn't need to get that biggest lump sum sitting in our offset, and went back to Joel when we had that magical figure. Said, right, and he's like, what are you doing back here so early?
What are you doing? Sorry. What's been happening in the back in the country areas of Toowoomba? Any plantations going on?
We've been busy.
Tell us the impact of the relationship on yours and your wife, both going the same direction, both pulling in the same direction, and both having the same vision. What was life like? You know, clearly you had a great relationship, but how much of a difference has it made to be going down the same path together?
Oh, huge. When we first met, before we were married, just polar opposites. You couldn't be more different with money management. I guess really all I've done is come across to her way of thinking, because it's very much in line with what I've been taught now. And it's great. It's so good. Just we're now that family that don't talk about money because we don't need to.
Yeah. But you're going to teach you're going to pass on the lessons,
aren't you? We're doing that already,
teach the kids how to fish as opposed to catch a fish for them for the day, and it's legacy building.
That's right.
We have this privilege of being in this position where we get to talk to a lot of people, and the common thread that we're seeing more and more, particularly over the last 20, 30 episodes, has been the people that are having the conversations with the children early over the dinner table is having a generational shift and an impact on those people. And Paul Clitheroe is the perfect example.
Terrific example. So what's on our journey? So we've obviously principal place of residence. So before we came to air, we talked about you've got a nice block of dirt. 65 acres of it.
Just a couple of acres.
A little bit of a view.
You're
going to obviously.
Interesting story too, Ben, that Jordan shared, that one of the properties that I looked at on an episode of Escape from the City is a property that he was looking at. We won't get into the details, but it's a small world, right?
World.
It really is.
Small world. I almost bought that property. Oh, what? So did I. So we're going to build our dream home there.
So at the moment, Joel's decided that my little black duckling down by the swampy river lake, that's staying in the portfolio for the time being. So we're going to keep that. We've got our principal place, and that has gone outside. The land, it doesn't really fit with the principles of what everyone's listened to on the podcast, but it's really what we want.
No, absolutely fits in, right? That is the big rock in the jar. That's there's going to be memories there that are going to be priceless. Right, so, and the fact that you're good with your hands and you're going to put a bit of blood, sweat and tears into it, and it's going to have your fingerprint and DNA all over the joint, is actually good, right? Because people wander. As you said, you had different ideals about money because you saw the people turning up in the European cars and the flash boats and living on the canals. How many of them were happy? How many of the parents were in good front? They weren't. You're cultivating a life story here that we're captivated in listening to. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's the point. I mean, don't worry about what other people think. Big rocks in the jar are really important, and I think what a lot of people think when planning is it's just about investment property. It is not. It is like we've got to work around the life that you want to lead. Property fits in there somehow. In terms of making your money work a little bit harder for you and having leverage investments is what it's all about.
It's lifestyle design.
It is.
And that is lifestyle design.
Perfect lifestyle design. So the fact that you've had a little pivot on your pathway, but you've got lessons along each of those, each kilometre that you've travelled on the road is actually brilliant, right? Because you're, again, more life skills. You're going to be able to pass that and pay it forward. So that's good
we
stuff.
sort of looked at the plan, and it was Joel and Belinda and I admitted very early on the piece it was a super aggressive strategy. We have an aggressive strategy. We don't have big incomes. We want to get to where we're going. And I'm happy to share it. I think maybe I'm going to retire on about $800 or $900 a week. Belinda's around $700 or $800, so we're not talking big numbers, but it has to be aggressive to get there.
Yeah.
And we thought to ourselves,
live like a king in the bush.
Yeah.
That number on 65 acres.
Yeah.
And you'll have no principal place of residence debt, and your expenses are lower than being away from a capital city. So you might be better off than someone in the city. Don't worry about that.
There has been thought around that. So
And in 10 years' time, we'll come out. I built this dream home. Looks down
over
the ridge. Sort of look over the ridge. Yes, I sold it.
That's right. But without until Joel.
This time I made $1 million.
I kept 15 grand of it.
I'd still make it sound out of it.
No, so we just sort of thought if we're going to go that aggressive and, we've got a discretion of 500, we're doing it at 350 and we're going to go pretty hard, we want that base to be something special. We want the kids to have the stuff, the space and the chickens and all that sort of stuff. So we bought that, we'll build, and then I think, Joel will kill me for this one, but it's about 2025, there's another investment property, and that's going to be very much a lot back on the tracks. Don't know where that is, but it'll be...
And it's probably going to be a balanced asset because we need to get a little bit of extra yield in there because the household income's pretty...
And that pushes us pretty close to the boundary, like we'll because the kids will be at maybe private school, so that expense piece there is going to be there. And then Lawson finishes high school, and 2 years later there's one more to round it out if we want it. And Joel's been very, very, very clear on the fact that that's if we want it. And we've got retirement dates in there of, I think, about 58 or something like that. So still pretty young, and
particularly still young compared to what people are looking at in the barrel of.
Yeah, or life expectancy. It's a long time retire. Right?
And I have no desire to retire at 58. What I am working so hard towards this position of having the freedom to retire, but not having to.
Yeah.
So I want to race to that 58 and go, I can do it. But guess what, I'm not. And then buy another one.
It's a choice. It's a choice, isn't it? That's ultimate. And ultimately, if the kids get involved in it, and we call this thing a family office, right?
Yep.
So it's going to be more and more common, right? Because over time, our wealth base, we live in a very fortunate country.
We do.
We're going to be very wealthy per capita compared to other countries in the world.
Yep.
People are going to want to come here in droves, and that's going to underpin the story that is land and is our property story over time.
I don't know what it looks like at the moment, but there will be a trust or something that everything gets transferred into. I don't know the structure yet, and the kids, I have in the back of my mind something around, show me a business plan, they're going to get a hell of an education between now and then, and then I want you to show me what you want to do with the equity in these properties. Yeah. And if you can, we'll do something. If not, then when Belinda and I pass away, then we can split the assets and it's done. But if you want to grow this base, mate, we'll come to the party. I'm really happy to do that, but you need to show me that you can do it.
Yeah. So. Look, the transformation is evident here, Ben, which is great. Now, I earlier left myself open to your heckle because Jordan is the Regional Queensland State Advisory Council for Queensland. So yes, I did say Queensland for Picker. Yes. What led you to get involved with Picker?
I heard it on the podcast. I have a rental property, and I just thought, I've got to get involved. Like this is how I've chosen to make my money, to create my wealth. I've got to get involved in that. And everything in this country has a voice, except property, it seems. And I'm very lucky. I work in an industry where you can see a few different things, and the way people spend and don't spend and do different things. And you see the way the property market has the potential to go. You see what's happening with the federal government at the moment and the way that can go. I just think any organisation that's going to give a voice to people is a great initiative. So I want to jump on board.
Further education.
Absolutely.
The meetups are giving everyone to share their story, to give some insights in terms of what they're doing and how they're doing it. So,
because I got an email today, Ben, from a listener who said that investing can be lonely, right? We take it for granted. We're rubbing shoulders with property investors all the time, but it allows that community to form around being, you too, me too. It gives you that like-minded opportunity to network.
Well, funny, at the end of last year, we did have a meet-up for our Victorian State Council, and I turned up to that, and one of our board members there, she was saying that I hear everyone sort of apparently talks about property at their barbecues. and they're very successful property investors. We don't.
Yeah.
None of our friends like talking about it because it's a monetary thing as opposed to just general property. Well, how's your property?
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, you own 4 or 5, so we're not going to talk about it because there's a bit of tall poppy in that.
Yeah, yeah.
So she's looking for a community where she can talk about it. So it's a lonely thing. So I think if we can harness that energy, continue to educate, but also advocate, and then we've got a winning formula for our non-for-profit association.
Can I also point out, like, and this is a blatant plug for the podcast, but that my best mate, he's out west in the beef industry, nothing to do with property. Actually, he does have one on the Gold Coast, but he's got nothing to do with property. He has now started listening to the podcast, and he's being able to relate that to exactly what he's doing. It's not just, these are life lessons. They're not just property lessons, or money management is for everyone.
Correct.
It's that simple. You don't have to just be chasing wealth through property. Chase wealth through anything, but if you can get the money management skills down pat, you're on your way, I reckon.
Well, we want to make a difference in people's lives, so we called it the Property Couch when we started. But you know, it's property, finance, money management, it's mindset, vision, all those sorts of things. So if we can, I guess when we met Paul Clitheroe for the 200th, it was like a night. For me, I've met Jan Summers, which closed the loop for me.
Yep.
And to meet Paul Clitheroe was a really nice circling of the loop because I grew up in the lounge room, living room, listening to this guy. I'd never met him, but he'd had an influence based on the wonderful content that he was providing. And I guess that's an ambition that Ben and I have, that we can provide an outlet for people to hear unbiased, independent advice that they can. And then hopefully one day we can circle back, shake the hand, and say, "How'd you go? Let us know the story," because this is fun for us, hearing your story and going right back to the beginning. So certainly appreciate that you've come on to our summer series. I think people will get enormous benefit out of hearing what you had to say. Well done on on not only the mindset change that you've had and then sticking to the plan, but also, I think importantly, as Ben said, putting a big rock in the jar, prioritising the memories for your children whilst you're on this wonderful ride. So,
mate, thanks for sharing, and obviously for putting your hand up to volunteer for Picker is amazing as well. Property's boring. Property's gardening. I keep talking about it from a long time, and we could say we'd love to get you on next year, but the reality is if we're still going in 3 or 4 years' time, having you coming back on then and getting an update on that journey, because we can show so much of what's happened in that time, right? Yeah. Sometimes people are like in a rush to buy 3 or 4 properties, and that's not us. It's just whatever your timeline allows you to do, tailored to your situation, that's what you should do. Yeah. But it's life design, right? You've thought about and prioritised the thing you want. This block of dirt's come up. You've said this is we see ourselves here, and everything else works around that. But in the interim, you've gone hard on cash flow management. You've trapped more surplus than you said you would. You've made it a challenge on yourself, and you're thriving. So congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. The biggest thing I would say to people is if you do not implement Money Smarts, you've 100% cheated yourself, or a system exactly the same. It doesn't have to be Money Smarts, but Money Smarts works. I listened to it and I couldn't get my head around it. I just couldn't figure it out. It was a strange system, and Joel ended up sitting down and showing us. And it's actually incredible how much surplus it captures. I thought, this will be good. We'll get a little bit of interest here or a little bit of this. And along with that education piece, if you're not doing Money Smarts, get on board. It'll change where you're going and what you're doing.
Well, so did you slippage? You picked up on the slippage? Is that where it picked up most of the surplus for you?
Because we haven't had a principal place, it's all been sitting in an offset. But I think the thing is, you can narrow down what you need in that living and lifestyle in your 7-day flow. So we're not wasting money anymore. That's the single biggest point of capture. Then all of a sudden we're getting interest from the bank on interest. And it's this awesome setup where we're getting money back from the bank, which doesn't happen very often. And then when we have a principal place, well, we're going to have this amount of money that's just offsetting this non-tax deductible thing. It's just it has a tenfold effect. It's great. I think
we're calling this a money awakening, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because not only that, but we haven't mentioned that Jordan also works in the banking industry, right? So it's also created a career for you in a way.
It has.
Because now that fascination with money and you look after rural lending and those types of things, we're not going to mention the lender or the bank, but it just goes to show you, right?
Yep.
Now you work for a bank. How much do they train you about how to manage your own money?
Let's keep him employed. that laugh said everything. That laugh said everything.
Let's just say 0. But what I would say to people, and as I've heard you guys say it a few times, and I can't be more serious on this, is start getting your house in order. You guys have been saying winter's coming. It's a little bit chilly. It's not Arctic yet, and I reckon it's going to get that way. For the first time in my life, I've started seeing lenders in our office trolling through statements for various things that you guys have mentioned, Uber Eats being one of them. You gotta have your house. If you want lending now, and the Royal Commission's not over, and when it is, there's gonna be a whole raft of things happen. Banks by default, we're a business, we wanna lend money. It's that simple. You make money on lending money. It's gonna get harder for us, from APRA, from all the rest of the regulators. So if you don't have your house in order, if you don't have your discretionary spending in order, if you don't have your deposit saved up, you're out of the game. It's that simple. It really is.
It's a great lesson.
Very good full stop there, I would have thought, Ben.
Love it.
Wonderful. But
Thank you, Jordan.
Terrific having you on. And as Ben said, we'll see you in 3 or 4 years.
That'd be great.
And I'm looking forward to some
Even
people.
if we quit the podcast, we're just going to do a random podcast.
Wouldn't we love to meet every property couch listener in 3 or 4 years and
wouldn't
see? Terrific. Thanks again.
No worries at all. Thank you for
Thanks for
having
being
me.
part of the summer series.
It's been great.
So you can understand why I'm getting disappointed.
Why are you
I'm getting sad.
I know, they're coming to an end.
The summer series is coming to an end.
How good is it though? But we said at the top that this was going to be a good one.
Sorry, tissues please, Ives.
Are you thinking about the Collingwood losing the grand final?
Oh no, that's later in the year.
But,
I can build myself up.
Yeah, that's been true. We've had so many great guests, and I think
Yes.
Jordan, hopefully people who are listening to that can just try his story on for size, see if it fits, see if there's anything in there that they can implement themselves. But I think there was a lot of wisdom there.
Complete gold, all of it.
But Ben, until next episode.
Knowledge is empowering, Bryce, but only if you act on it, just like Jordan is.
Oh, I like that. See you next week. Want more great content from The Property Couch? If you haven't had a chance to go back to the foundational episodes, we got good news for you. Go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20 and check out the free binge guide, which gives you the insights you need from the first 20 episodes, where we unpack the foundational pillars of the Insider's Guide to Property, Finance and Money Management. It's completely free and available now.